So Phoebe's puppies are almost 4 weeks old, and I wanted to check in and show you how much they've grown and what they've been up to. I've also had a lot of questions about what we think their coloration is going to look like as adults. And as I promised in the last video, I was going to try to go through part of that today. So we're going to look at both of their parents and some other dogs and see how coloration does change as they grow older. And then we're going to look at each individual puppy and we're going to see if we can give you an idea of what we think they're going to look like. We'll have a much better idea in a couple of weeks, but I think we can get a pretty good idea today. Here they are in their new little puppy pen. They've got a lot more area to play, as you can see. Got a bunch of little bitty toys in there they carry in their mouth. Got multiple textures, different kind of mats and everything in there for them to experience, to experience different textures. We start with something easy like that. Have a litter box in there. They're learning to use it. Not perfect at it yet. That'll take a couple weeks. They are playing with each other, interacting with each other. You'll see them kind of pounce on each other, maybe bark at each other, growl at each other. That is all normal. You can see they're toddling around a lot better. I'm going to weigh them and put colored collars on them in just a few minutes. That will help you be able to identify them better. They are eating puppy mush at this point. I have them in this play area, but at night I'm still putting them back in their whelping box for a couple more days just because we've been so cold. And I have some hanging toys that play music when they touch them, and so they're interacting with those and learning that they can make things do something like play music. Definitely changed since last time you saw them. And they will just continue to change here drastically every week. So we're going to take a few minutes and we are going to look at some pictures of both Benson and Phoebe when they were puppies and see how their coloration changed as they matured. And then we're going to look at each puppy and try to kind of predict to see how their color pattern and their overall body color, what probably it's going to look like when they're mature dogs. I really hope that you're more interested in the temperament than what your dog looks like, because that is way more important in the long run. But we're going to try to see what these little guys are going to look like. So now I want to talk about what we think these coloration on these puppies is going to be like, and we're going to go back and look at their parents first to see how their parents' markings and color have changed from when they were puppies to adulthood. This is the father. This is Mr. Benson as an adult. And I bought him from another breeder. And this was one of the first pictures I got from him when he was about 6 weeks old. You can see that he has the dark rim around his ears. And you can also see that he has a big white blaze that goes right up the center of his forehead. It takes up the majority of that. This is him when he's probably about 11 weeks old, maybe 12 weeks old. You can see that blaze is narrowing. This is him at about a year old. That blaze is definitely getting more narrow. The sabling is coming in on his body though, and his head. And then this is him as an adult. You can see the sabling, still see that dark around his ears and eyes, and you can see how his blaze of white has really narrowed as he has turned into an adult. So we're also going to look at Mom. This is Phoebe. This is Mom. She is a black-headed tri-bluey. And this is the earliest picture I could find of her. So we raised her, and notice that most of her forehead is white. She's only like a couple days old there. Here she's about a week old, and you can see that majority of her forehead is white when she was a puppy. Here she is at about 6.5 weeks old. Still lots and lots of white, but you can see that it actually looks like it's getting narrower. And here she is as an adult. You can see that the blaze, definitely the white on her head, definitely has gotten smaller. And I wanted to look at another puppy. This dog's about 4 years old now. And when he was little, you can see that he looks a lot like one of the puppies in this litter, having half his face white and then half dark. This was taken when he was about 6.5 weeks old. I couldn't find one of him younger. And then I wanted to show you a recent update of him as an adult. He is a sable, which we did expect, but you can see that he still has white on that side, but it's not near as prevalent. If you want to learn more about how coat color changes, you can go to our website. I'll put the link down below. Go to that Corgi info tab, drop down to that first one and click on that. And then you can flip through here and you can see the different coat colors that are actually in Corgis. And you can also look, I've got some examples of how coat color does change as they age. And I've got some examples of every coat color that we had. And you can see how the tries and the sables really do change as they age. So I'll put the link to that in the description below if you want to look at that. So we're going to look at each of these puppies individually, and we're going to try to figure out possibly what their markings might look like as adults. So this is Mr. Black. They just got collars, just got weighed. They are all between about 2.1 and 2.4 pounds. He is nibbling on my hand. He has teeth coming in, and he is hungry. They're started on their little puppy food too. So let's just look at his markings. He looks a lot like the coloration of his body did when Benson was this size. But remember that all this is puppy hair and it will all fall out. Let's look at his face. Let's see what we see there. So we're seeing dark around the edge of his ears. That's usually an indication that they're going to have sabling. A lot of times, I know, let's look at your face. A lot of times they'll have dark up here. He's got a little bit coming in. He has dark right here underneath his eyes. I'm like 99% sure he is going to be a sable. I don't believe he's going to be red and white. He's going to be a sable. So what about the white on him? As we talked with Phoebe and Benson, I mean, he's got a good amount of white right here. And this little white, I think it will become closer together. And this will get smaller, but he will still have white, on his face. He's going to be very well marked. This white should stay here on his collar area. So that is Mr. Black. I know. They're doing lots of chattering.
So that's Mr. Black, and that's what I think he's going to turn into. All right, this is Mr. Green, and if you remember, he has a full white collar around his neck. He has white that comes up from his head and comes back into his collar area. So one of the things I'm seeing with Mr. Green is, if you look down here at his ears, we've got some lighter hair. So that may indicate that he's going to have some red. He's either going to be a red or going to have be a redhead with a skull cap, black skull cap. So let's look at his little face. Okay. He has dark around the edge of his ears, the rim of his ears. That's usually indication of a black-headed tri. I think it's too early to be able to tell at this point what he's going to be. That red on the back of his ears is kind of telling me maybe not. You didn't like that? It's okay. Also, he's still going to retain a lot of white on his face. I do believe that. It will probably become less, and this black may... what? You don't let me touch on you? That black may come in darker and come down further into this area as an adult. But he's still going to have a big white area on his face. You can see his nose is darkening up from when he was a little tiny baby, too. And that's typical. And you can see he does have like the red eyebrow, which is normal. And red coming in over here on his face. And there's quite a bit of that.
I will say that Phoebe does have some red hair deep down underneath her black, right there around her ears too.
Okay, this is Mr. Orange. So you can see Mr. Orange has white that comes up here, and then it skips to his collar. Once again, I'm seeing some lighter hair come in here. But when we look at him, once again, he has that dark, around the edge of those ears, indicating that darker coloring. He does have a lot more brown in here. So he, for sure, is going to have more of the red on his face and little red eyebrows. Whether he is it black-headed tri or a redhead tri or a redheaded with a skull cap, I'm not positive. And I think he has enough white here that he will retain white on his face. It may not be as big, but he should have white there on his face. All right, we have Mr. Blue. He's got a light blue collar on. And if you remember, he has white that comes all the way up his face, comes back, ties in with his collar. His collar is not as large as Mr. Orange, or yeah, I believe it's orange. One of them. But he does have a full collar. Now, I'm seeing not as much, but just a little bit of that lighter hair there. If we flip him over, he has really dark on the inside of his ears. And this is not near as red down in here. I think he has a possibility of being a black-headed tri, personally. He has enough white here that this is going to stay. It may narrow up, but he's still going to have a white blaze up his little face. And you can see his little nose is turning in black too. Right? Right. I know. And then here's Mr. Red. So normally my indicator is if that rim of that ear is black, they're probably going to be a black-headed tri. But I'm also seeing some of that lighter coloring come in, so it may just be baby hair, may not be. All right, so here's Mr. Red. Once again, a lot of white that comes up his face. I personally think that since he has been a baby, we're already seeing less white and more black on his face. I think we're seeing some of this white go away. So I think this will continue to narrow up a little bit. He's still going to have a really big blaze that goes up his face, but I think that that will narrow up. So one thing that I'm looking at with him is, one thing I'm looking at with him is I think that his right eye may possibly be blue in color, and I don't think you're going to be able to see that. So, yeah, there you can see it. So ever so often, I will get one that does have like a blue eye. I mean, he can see out of it fine. It's just going to be blue colored, and his other eye is definitely going to be brown colored. It's okay. It's okay. So this is Mr. Red. You can see he's got little red eyebrow here, very little red coming in here, and his ears are dark, dark, dark. So once again, I think he's going to be a black-headed tri with probably a little blue eye on that right side.
So that's kind of what I think coloration-wise we're looking at, and I'm going to put them back in their crate now. So here they are with their little collars on. So they've really made great improvements this week, as you can probably tell from last week, and it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger. Big puppy stuff every week. They're going to become more energetic. They're going to become more active. They're going to become more inquisitive. We'll continue working on daily handling, and we'll introduce some things like barrier challenges, more household items that make sounds they need to get used to. We'll actually start with their first introduction to a clicker this week too. And so stay tuned for our next weekly update when we are 5 weeks old.